Hey, the Second Amendment, we all know, is very important to us as Americans. How important would it be to somebody living in Israel right now? We're going to talk about that live today with Irina Merkulova. She is in studio. Before we get to her, I just want to ask you, like this video, share it out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Also, head on over to ourwatch.com. Love to have you subscribe, become one of our watchmen. We would really, really appreciate that. So much stuff out there. We want to make sure you're getting true information from the right people. So one more time, ourwatch.com, subscribe, become one of our watchmen. But today we do have, as I said, Irina Merkulova is live in studio. Irina, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. You know, this is it's been cool to see you here today because I've seen you live from Israel so many times, but this is the first time you're live in studio, so we're glad that you're with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to talk today about the Second Amendment. You have a dual citizenship, America, Israel. You understand the Second Amendment, and you have firsthand experience as to why that would be so important for the people of Israel.
I do. I've always thought that it was strange that a country that is surrounded by enemies didn't have a Second Amendment, or they weren't more proactive about having guns or owning guns to protect themselves. And I think what happened on October 7th illustrated the need for that. And I think more people in Israel currently are applying to get handguns or gun licenses in general. They're waiting in line right now to actually receive the firearm. So I think it's definitely something that propelled that desire for self-reliance and self-protection.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to you about this earlier. To me, it's just a silly thing to not have that ability to protect yourself. Here in America, we have fire extinguishers. Now, do we have a fire department that can show up and put the fire out? Absolutely, we do. But why would we wait for them to show up? If we have a fire extinguisher, we could put it out before they get there. Why would we not take that action into our own hands and stop it from spreading and getting worse while we wait for them to respond? Same type of thought process in my mind is, if somebody's trying to break into your home, somebody's trying to hurt your family, you have the ability to stop them. Why would you not? And there, you look at what happened on October 7th, the response time. I mean, talk about that if you would.
It was a very long response time. It took the military something like 8 hours to get to those places. I think that it's such an important thing to have. I mean, sure, you can rely on your government. You can rely on your police force. And I think Israel and Israelis in general, they're quick to be reliant on their government and their military and their police because they're some of the best. I mean, the Israeli military is one of the best in the world. We're very good at what we do, but you have hiccups everywhere, and every once in a while something happens where the police don't get there on time. The military doesn't get there on time, especially if they're not prepared for the level or scope of attack that we saw on October 7th. So it is important, just in case they can't get there on time or they can't get there in 8 hours. It's really important to be able to protect yourself. And the people that were able to save some of the kibbutzes were people that had guns, or people that were in the police force that just happened to be there, happened to live in one of those areas. And they were able to save so many lives because they took action when it was necessary without relying on somebody else to come save them.
Yeah, you brought up a word there, kibbutz, and I know what that is, but many of my viewers might not know. Can you explain what a kibbutz is?
It's like a settlement. So when Jews started to come over to Israel, they would create a kibbutz, which was like it's kind of based on a socialist system where it's a very large commune. Everybody lives together. They work together. They work for a common good. And they had a lot of these settlements all over the country because it was the start of a country. You needed to put in a lot of work to build a foundation. And so it was a lot easier to live in like those large commune settings where all of your money went to the kibbutz. And then the kibbutz would, if you need a phone, if you need a car, if you need something, they would provide that for you based off of your need. It's a very socialist kind of idea. And it worked very well. And now I think there's only a few settlements like that still function that way. Most of them do not. But historically that's what they were. And so these are basically small settlements where people live.
Right. And I've been there on the Gaza border, and there are several kibbutz right there along the border. And, the need to be able to protect themselves is huge right there at that Gaza border, isn't it?
100%. I mean, they are so close. When Jeremy was there, we were able to get to the border from Nativ Asara, and it's way too close for comfort. And so those areas especially need additional protection. And they have security that patrols and goes around, but unfortunately on that day it wasn't enough. And I think that because things had been quiet for a long time, you fall into this certain sense of security. And it's a false sense of security because you never really know what your enemies are planning. And in that day, it was something big that they weren't prepared for. So the people that did have guns, they weren't able to save everybody. And not every kibbutz had somebody with a firearm that was able to help. And so those settlements were hit the worst.
So drastically, in drastic numbers now, we're seeing the applications for firearms there in the state of Israel. Do you think they're going to be approving these? A lot more people are going to have guns?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, I would say there's, huge uptake from what there was. So many people now realize how important it is to be able to protect yourself and to protect your neighbors. It's not just about you. It's about your neighbors, your friends, your, anybody in your community. So I think that, the numbers of applications have risen drastically, and the number of approvals is also very high. They're approving a lot of people. There's hardly anybody, I think, that I know that hasn't been approved. Now, the question is actually getting the firearm, and that's going to take a little bit of time because we're in a state of war and there's not enough available. But the applications have been approved.
So do you think there's going to be a change in Israel? Do you think this is going to kind of open the door for more firearms and the nation will head more towards like what we have here in America where I live in California, right? It's hard in California sometimes. But, speaking in general terms, in America, you can pretty much get a gun if you're a law-abiding citizen. It's easy to get a gun. Do you think that that's where Israel is headed?
I would like to think that they are. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. Right now, they're accepting all these applications and approving them because we're in a state of war. I don't know once the war is over if they're actually going to allow people to keep the firearms. I hope they will. I know that a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are wanting something similar to the Second Amendment, especially in a country that's surrounded by people that want to kill them and want them dead. So I feel like it's more important there than anywhere else. But I don't know if it's going to become law. I don't know if it's going to be like a legitimate thing that, this is a right that I have now. I hope that with time they will allow that, and maybe with a government shift they will allow that as well. But I think now after October 7th, more and more people see the importance of self-reliance and being able to protect yourself.
Yeah, Edmund Burke said those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And we were talking earlier about the fact that many Jews in years past had depended upon their government or trusted their government, in many cases to their detriment. And here we are now. Israel and the Jewish people have an opportunity to go, okay, we're not gonna do what we did in times past and depend so much on the government, but we're gonna take some of these matters into our own hand, take our own personal security and the security of our family and our neighbors, and really see some personal responsibility in that. Do you think that's a good sign of things to come in Israel?
I certainly hope so. And again, you can rely on your government. I think in times past they relied on non-Jewish governments, non-Israeli governments, because there wasn't a state of Israel. And so you can't fully depend on that for somebody that's not of your own kind, so to say, to protect you, especially when you are a marginalized group in the nation that you live in. So I think that with Israel, people feel that because it is an Israeli Jewish state, that they can feel that level of security, which they should. They rightfully should. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also rely on yourself. And I hope that more and more people will wake up and say, okay, we need to be able to protect ourselves in a situation that may not come, but maybe it will. And so if it does, I'm able to, pick up my firearms and I'm able to go and do what I need to do while we wait for backup.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I really hope that that's the direction it heads. I see a big need for the Israeli people to be able to protect themselves. You're here, obviously you're here in studio, so you're here stateside, but you're going to be heading back to Israel, and you're going to be going back into the battle. How can my viewers be praying for you?
For our safety and for our victory. Honestly, the sooner that this ends, the better for everybody. In the last couple of weeks, Israel has lost 50 plus soldiers, which is very sad. And just for the safety of our soldiers and for our ultimate victory.
Yeah. Well, we're going to certainly pray for that. We're going to be praying for members of Congress to vote properly as we look at the support for Israel. In fact, we just put out just recently a need for people to call their senators. Very important that we continue to support Israel. I've said this numerous times. As Christians, we are to support the nation of Israel. Genesis 12:3 says that he will bless the people that bless Israel. He's going to curse those that curse Israel. I certainly want to be on the side of blessing when it comes to that. So we want to continue to pray for you and support you however we can, and we thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Our Watch. Again, if you would like this video, share it out with your friends, your family, your neighbors. We want you to know what's going on in Israel and various other issues going on that affect us here in America. So share this out. Go over to ourwatch.com, become one of our subscribers, one of our watchmen. We'd really appreciate that. We will see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.